Well, hello. Hello, fellow e-commerce professionals. Welcome to the, it's still the Austin Retail and E-commerce meetup, but maybe we're in for a rename because we've now become so much more global. Sorry, this is my Cosita, the Zoom quality control manager. She insists on looking in on every Zoom I do. So, got to accommodate the officers of the company. Anyway, today is very intended to be quite informal. We'd love to have each of you introduce yourselves and what you do, and then start asking questions. We got a little bit of an early start with Victor talking about 3PL, which is one way a lot of merchants improve service and save money. Tony, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
Can you hear me? Oh, awesome. Yeah, I've always been interested in e-commerce. I think it's just where the retail space is going now. I've dabbled in it I wouldn't say a little bit here and there, but for the most part, I've followed a lot of brick and mortar modalities, I guess you could say, in terms of sales. And I would love to just learn more and learn from people that are already in the industry, and just kind of see how things are run on the e-commerce side of things.
Cool. Do you run a store now?
No, I did in the past. I'm actually new to the Austin area. I just moved here probably a few weeks ago. But I had co-founded a company back in Oklahoma, which is where I'm originally from. And I guess it had small time success, but it was just in an industry that was it's sort of just on the gray line, and then of course it just didn't work out too well. But I'm just really looking for ideas and just kind of seeing how the things go, and just learning more in e-commerce mostly.
Cool. Wynn, would you like to introduce yourself? And I guess, are you both of them? Or do we?
Yeah, I'm actually his brother. Can you hear me okay? Sorry, excuse me, I'm driving in the car.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've been an Austinite for 7 years. I started off I'm based in real estate, so landlording, short-term rental. I also run a eBay and Amazon business. We do about 100,000 reselling books and media. Now I'm interested in the e-commerce space. We got money, but we need operators and pick a niche and all that good stuff, and try to scale that up. I'm kind of interested in the models right now of, like, we've always been based off marketplaces, and the fees in marketplaces, as you know, are just climbing. And so I'm interested in trying to find traffic, paid and organic, and how people are doing that in the space right now.
Cool. Very cool. Jay? You're muted.
Yes, I was trying to look for that unmute button. Hi, my name's actually Juju B. Nice to meet all of you. I'm the founder of a SaaS platform that basically aims to help with the apparel retail and e-commerce. So something very new, and we're looking to launch at some point, in fall, early winter of this year. So yeah, just here to kind of listen in and see what people's experience in retail and e-commerce has been in the Austin space. Oh, and by the way, I've been here for about 8 years now.
Cool. Is that your office or a studio or a background?
That is a background, but I've been told that it's very convincing.
It is, because you don't have the weird edges around you, but it's also a really neat looking space.
Yeah, it
No,
looks pretty
yeah.
sweet.
Yeah. I come from an architecture background, so I try to use background images that inspire me to work harder.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. What is your product going to do? Your software?
It's actually going to match individuals to their human body doubles in order to help them find better apparel fit, right? Because currently,
Ooh.
when we're in e-commerce space and we're shopping for apparel products, it's usually just one or two models. And even though the models today are diversified, right? But for a singular product, there's only one way to understand it, other than maybe through consumer reviews and that space in itself, is a pretty spotty space. Some people upload pictures, some people talk about certain elements of the product. Some people talk about service, which has nothing to do with the product. So it becomes like a very disarrayed sort of space. And so for you to find good, product information for apparel, right? Like you have to spend a good amount of time, unless you just like rely on returns and exchanges, which in itself, is not a very sustainable behavior because, and most people don't know this. In fact, I didn't know this until, I got into the problem and started researching it. Did you know that, for example, out of every 4 pieces of clothing bought online today, that 3 pieces would be returned. And out of those 3, about 1 or 2 are just going to go to incinerators or landfills. They don't actually get resold for different reasons. I've been asked like, why, why? And I think because, well, most of us are in e-commerce space and in retail space. You may already know the answer to this, which is, look, if a product comes back to you, past a certain season in the apparel space, it's, seasonality is somewhat important. That SKU no longer exists, and it takes a long time, for an engineer to go and upload, all that product detail just for 1 or 2 pieces of items being returned, which is not really a good use of their time. And they might as well use that same amount of time to create a new SKU for, let's say, 10,000 items, 20,000 items, which is, usually the case for apparel retailers, right? So that's one reason. Another reason is, brands want to protect their brand equity. So they don't really, some brands choose not to sell to secondhand markets because they want to preserve their market value. Okay, so that's another issue. A third issue is that, look, sometimes people abuse this returns and exchange system, right? They intentionally buy something just for like a one-time wear, return it all stained and damaged. And what's a retailer supposed to do about that, right? So I thought, look, there's a much better way of going about this, which is, look, this is more of an information problem than anything else, from just talking to users and trying to understand, like why did this happen? Talking to retailers, why did this happen? How can we prevent this from happening? Because I think prevention is much better than mitigation in this case. Mitigation would be relying on returns and exchanges, right? But which is after the problem has already occurred. Now, if we can, prevent the problem from happening, wouldn't that be better? And so what we're trying to do here is to, give people specific information that they need to know to make an intelligent purchasing decision for the apparel product, right? Because right now, what do we have? We have some picture uploads, some 5-star rating, maybe a text input field, but it's voluntary. You don't really own your review. You don't really know what sort of pictures to upload. A lot of people just do selfies from the bedroom. A lot of people, are not sure what to write about. So sometimes they just write like, oh, I loved it, but it's not very informative, right? Like, not sure why you loved it. So we thought, hey, let's really understand, because I come from an apparel background. So I used to design, manufacture, and retail my own apparel line. So understand this problem innately. And I'm like, there's a much better way of structuring this space so that, we can then, understand this product, in its full sort of glory before.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're attempting to tackle a very expensive area for people, and it has environmental implications. Kudos.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
It's a $550 billion a year problem to the US market, by the way. Yeah. So it's very expensive. Yeah.
Cool. Kent, welcome back. You want to talk about yourself?
Yeah, I'm not as active in the e-commerce space, but I created a brand almost a year ago for streetwear apparel, and I've been skateboarding for most of my life, so I just wanted to try that out, see what I could make. It's more of just a passion project, really, but that's about all I have.
Are you reselling other brands, or you have your own? Oh, wow.
My own. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Try to make as much as I can, but yeah, I can't literally make a t-shirt, but I try to do my own things to it.
That's neat. That's neat.
Yeah.
William, would you like to unmute and introduce yourself? And
okay. Actually, I work for apparel e-commerce business based in Atlanta. I'm based in Dallas area, so we sell hats and gloves. So online, the brand name is Canute Sports. So I'll get that on the chat board. Okay.
By the way, if you guys want to put your websites or contact info in the chat to share, feel free. We love it.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank
you. I just came and sit in this group and see what can I learn, from everybody about the new ways to acquire traffic and try to sell more of our products online.
Yeah, and grow.
Yeah.
Cool. Welcome aboard. Dave, your turn.
Hi, nice meeting everyone. Yeah, I'm kind of new to Austin. I've been here for 2 years now. Kind of been in the e-commerce space, but more for tech companies. And I recently joined this new company called Little Data. So basically, we're a data connector for Shopify stores, or if you're a BigCommerce as well. And we send accurate data to Google Analytics. So I'm not sure if anyone's really using Google Analytics, but basically Shopify to Google Analytics, a lot of stores, the numbers, they don't match up. And we kind of stitch the data doing server side and client side data so that you can get the most accurate information. And especially important for businesses that use maybe like Facebook ads, Google ads, and you kind of want to see the marketing attributions of your performance. And so we also provide that. And yeah, the reason I joined this call because I'm trying to connect with more e-commerce people here in Austin. And B, I kind of wanted to understand what challenges people face, what's going on in the environment of e-commerce.
Yeah, cool. There's lots of different challenges. I think the biggest thing I see is that people, your issues are of preeminent importance to you. My issues are important to me. Kent's issues are important to Kent, but they don't necessarily match. And so it isn't always as easy as one would hope to pull all that together. Yeah. So anyway, welcome. Lena.
Hello, I'm just joining. I'm from the East Coast. I'm actually in the Raleigh, North Carolina area right now, but I come to Austin every now and then. But I'm just here to just listen in. I'm from technology aspect of things, so.
Cool. You're not far from me. I'm in actually just east of Knoxville, Tennessee. Okay. So our group has been global since we went Zoom. although the live events are obviously at this point in Austin. We're talking about seeing about how to do that in this area and still reach enough people. So we maybe need to expand into like Asheville and Raleigh, Durham and things like that. So I don't know. We'll see.
Nice.
We'll see, but you're welcome. You're always welcome. Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. It's actually my first time joining group. I sort of like watched some video on YouTube, but I think it's probably better for me just to join in person. I mean like
Okay.
virtually. Yeah, I really enjoyed the content. Just just here to learn more. And yeah.
Cool. Did you go through some of the old videos? There's some great gems in there.
Yeah.
Oh, good. AJ, I think, why don't you start off
My
the
last
discussion since you got some
Yeah,
great.
my last but not least for intros. I'm AJ Davis. I'm the co-organizer with Lori, and I'm the founder and CEO of an agency based in Austin called Experiment Zone. And our mission is to help you figure out how to get your website visitors to become customers using conversion rate optimization and user research. So happy to talk more about that. If anyone's interested or has no idea what I just said, feel free to message me and I'll keep an eye on chat. So I think the topic today is there's a lot of stuff in the news about inflation, choices the Fed's making, customer spending and changes about what people need and want. And we just want to have a chance for everyone to just talk about what they're hearing, talk about what they're seeing, talk about your strategies as there's some uncertainty now and ahead economically. So I guess I wanted to first just start by asking about the inflation question. How is that showing up for you and your business right now? And if you work on a technology or run an agency, feel free to speak like on behalf of trends you're seeing on that as well. Lori, what are you seeing? You want to kick us off?
We're seeing quite a few businesses really, the sales are absolutely dropping, and some of it, in fact, I just did an analysis a couple days ago, and part of it is that she's actually following a pre-COVID trend that the business always did this in June. May was pretty good for her, but she forgot because nothing's been normal in e-commerce for the last couple of years. And fortunately, in her business, she doesn't have supply problems. So, I think that she got lucky, and she has what I would call not only a recession-proof product, but one people might actually seek out because she's selling gold bullion. And when people get unsteady about the stock market, they like to go into hard assets. But, Google also made a major algorithm shift in May. And I think that on top of just what's going on, that algorithm shift was just unpredictable in terms of the results. We've seen stores have massive reductions in traffic. That did not always come with a massive comparable drop in sales, because Google's attempt is to provide a more relevant result. So a lot of times it weeded out mostly irrelevant traffic, and that's a good thing, because it's like robots. Why do you want to filter bots out of your numbers? Because otherwise they skew your data that you're relying on to determine what to pay for as you grow. I'm also seeing store owners panicking and withdrawing, cutting back on marketing, which is absolutely the best way to guarantee you're going to die if business starts to slow down. When business gets tough, you need to be both smarter and often spend more to continue to grow. You just need to understand what you're doing and who your customer is, and watching your cost per acquisition so that you don't overspend. You have to be more efficient and more, I'm having a brain, do it more. So have any of you guys have questions, or what are you seeing, or we want to give you good information today?
I would say it's probably when it comes down to the marketing standpoint, right? Because I'm hearing a lot of apparel companies or people trying to do apparel. I would say understand the algorithm. For example, like Instagram, right? Right now, there's a common concept that they've been doing. So they're called reels, right? You create a reel, and who's not familiar with the reel? Just right now, just right on. Do you guys have an idea what reels are on Instagram?
Why don't you recap it? Because whether or not people on this call know
Okay,
it, people rewatching
so
it later may
it's
not.
Okay, so it's pretty much like you could turn a picture to a video. It's pretty much turning into a short clip, right? But the whole algorithm behind it is that if you put certain hashtags, descriptions, types of audios, there's different variables inside that reel to make it correlated to the consumer target audience that you're trying to reach out to, right? So let's say I create a reel on Instagram, and the consumer, the target audience you're trying to reach, it could be someone random, and they're just swiping through their phone. They could potentially end up landing on that reel that you have. That's why some people, if you do the comparison, you'll see their hard post, like a regular post, and then you got their reels, right? You got the posts that are roughly going maybe 100 likes, but the reels, they have over like 1,000 views and more. It's because they put themselves on a digital platform. You get what I mean? So think of it kind of like it's like digital advertising at its best. It really is. And that's why you have a lot of other pages that will tell you like and comment, like and comment, like and comment. The reason why they're telling you that is to drive more traffic to that page to end up on an explore page. So there's different algorithms, different variables that you could get involved in to get you to where you want to get. So with apparel, I think that is the most efficient way if you're trying to build something organically without paying for the advertising. For sure.
So when you're talking about the reels on Insta, and Facebook is now doing them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got YouTube has announced a short video format again to compete against the same target. And then of course we have TikTok, who has really popularized the form. Are you doing all of them? Because their algorithms are all unique too.
Well, yes, absolutely. But so it's like you want to go where your target audience is going to be at, right? So it's like pulling data for the age group of what type of social media they're going to be using, right? Like if I'm targeting millennials, I'm using all social media platforms, right? If I'm targeting maybe a potential older audience, I'm going to go to Facebook. If I'm targeting like practically everyone, like a universal social media platform, I'm going to use Instagram. And for apparel, like if you've ever go to the little shopping next to the Explore tab on shopping, you'll see a bunch of different apparel. They've already integrated their shops to that, And from my experience, at least, I believe that it's a very efficient way to do something organically. Just understand the algorithms, understand the hashtags, even something I didn't touch on. Let me rewind a little bit. Getting a hold of doing like the geolocations, right? So let's say you want to target a Los Angeles audience, target a very hot spot of Los Angeles, put the location, right? Because what ends up happening is if people look up the location on the search engine tab of Instagram, you could potentially pop up on that explore page of just based on location of what you tagged it on. So that's why if you go to your views, you're like, I don't even follow this person. Who is this? Why they look at my stuff? So that's why, like I said, there's so many variables involved to building something organically for sure. But it also requires good content. You don't want to put a garbage video out about what you're trying to advertise, So for sure. That's what I got on the marketing standpoint.
That's cool. One of the things that you point to is knowing your customers and knowing where they are and where they're likely to be and what messaging might interest them. How many of you have actually gone through the trouble to create a customer avatar? And this would apply to software too. Do you know your customer persona?
Oh, absolutely. But on a 3PL standpoint, right? Because I'm a provider. So I believe off of 3PL Central, I gathered some data. I believe 76% of our business channels are through referral networking, right? So I've been able to pull up different types of statistics to increase that consumer base and bring in as much people as we possibly can, to drive more business, right? So, but I would say it is incredibly hard, but I have to use what I know as far as applying the hashtags and all that other good stuff, apply it to social media, and then build upon that. I've actually gathered a few leads off of that. So I believe it does help a lot for sure. But when it comes to
AJ.
creative, there's like, it's tech, like software drives
Yeah.
everything. Like it's like,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
all,
absolutely.
it makes
AJ?
life easy.
Would you like to talk about what is a customer avatar? Do you want me to take that on?
I
Or
can take it.
How does somebody find it?
I think Thomas mentioned some of our replays. So I think I gave a talk on this maybe 6 months ago or so. So if anyone's like interested in going deeper in this, I think I talked about a couple of different, three different strategies for building out your customer avatar based on what data you have access to. So I won't rehash all that, but what is an avatar? It's the idea of like, to me, it's as simple as thinking about if you were to sit down at coffee with your customer, what's that person like? What do they care about? What problems do they have? How do they spend their time? How does your solution fit into what they need in life? And it's more sophisticated than that. So you can start thinking about how that relates to the demographics and how many different types of people you might have. Maybe someone who's a longer term user and has been using your product or subscribed for years has different needs than someone who's brand new. So you can think about different attributes to make the personas different. But at the end of the day, it's about humanizing the people on the other side of the screen so that we can be empathetic and we can build products and websites and marketing activities that reach them where they are with a message that's going to resonate. Lori, do you have a short version of that? I feel like I gave the long version.
Yeah, I don't think there's a short version of it. It's kind of like explaining attribution modeling. The easy thing is that the digital marketer actually has a neat little workshop, and it sort of has tutorials as you work through the steps. But when, I hear, actually Juju B was mentioning, that this is a really expensive issue. So how does she, once she knows her target are retailers that sell clothing in likely multiple size ranges. Boy, I'll tell you, with all the Asian shipping sites that are coming out there, the return problem is enormous. And as a customer, I don't really, most of those stores say ship it back to China and you don't get the deal they got. So it's like $80 to ship it back. It's like, forget it. So when she talks about what she's doing, it's cool, but I'm not her customer. I'm her customer's customer. So she has to figure out how does she talk to them about it. And for them, obviously, it's going to be increasing their margin and increasing their customer satisfaction rate, which then leads to more repeat business. So that's why it's really important to know who your customer is, because her messaging is going to be wrapped all around that. Whereas if she was dealing with a consumer, she might be saying, hey, look, you're not going to have to hassle with a return. And this is much better for the environment. It's a lower carbon footprint. We have a problem with fast fashion. You don't have to feel any guilt. So it just really, the messaging is really different depending on who you're talking to. And right now, I think with this, the market, I pulled, by the way, if anybody else has something to offer or ask, I'd rather hear from you than me. So you can either plug me in chat or interrupt. I'm really cool with that. I had kids, I can handle it. So anyway, they were talking, I was looking at Harvard Business Review and trying to get some fresh ideas over what I'm already trying to do for my customers. And quite honestly, even for what I do, I still need fresh ideas because e-commerce is a moving target. The things that you would have done even 2 years ago may still work, but they're probably more expensive or less effective. So let's look at what else is coming on and what can I do to continue to grow and get past, and at a minimum, survive the bad market. Because not everybody's going to hurt, but.
And
yeah.
Lori, I think to bring it back to the topic for today around like the environment plus the avatars you mentioned, avatars can be really helpful for us to understand how we would assume our target audience is being impacted directly by the environmental factors. If you're making luxury good items, it may be a very different impact than somebody who's selling like a lower margin product to a more common audience or something. So I would be curious if I want to offer actually there's some reaction options within Zoom. So if you want to raise your hand, I know not everyone's on video today, and I'll keep a lookout for anyone raising their hand, and then we'll call on you to share. But I'd invite everyone on the call to think about and maybe jump on and share, how are your personas or target audience, how are they being impacted right now? So outside of your business, but what does their life look like? How is that impacted? How is their business impacted? Has anyone thought about that or have any initial thoughts about it? Laura, I'm going to throw it back to you. How are your clients being impacted by the day-to-day right now?
And again, it kind of depends on what they sell and whether Google also chose to slap them in May. You know, if you were selling baby goods right now, you may find that you're competing against parents who are far more obsessed with finding formula, because that's a more pressing and a more of a life and death decision. And that potentially impacts any kind of economic strategy. Even if you're using food stamps or WIC to get your formula, if it isn't on the shelf, you have a problem. So that, you know, how do you use that? Well, that becomes an interesting question. If you had a nice secret supply of formula, maybe you give away a can with every purchase over $100. But, you know, you know, and then you have to stop and think about, well, that's young adults, usually are parents, and they might be offended by you trying to newsjack and capitalize on it. So you really kind of have to get in their heads and remember that in most cases, your customers are not exactly like you. You know, it's rare when that's even if you would be your perfect persona, it may not be your only persona. So what I thought was kind of interesting is when you have if you think of the market for your products as a pie, you have those that are loyal to you already, and you do want to keep them engaged, but that's pretty much all you have to do to continue to bring them back. And hopefully, you know, your existing customer base and what interests them well. The other are those that are loyal to your competition, and that's a very tough nut to crack. You know, so what you want to do is figure out who's in the middle. And excuse me, by studying your competitors and figuring out, and this is where SEO tools can be kind of handy, because by examining where they're succeeding and where they're targeting their efforts, that tells you where their customers are likely to be. And like SEMrush is one program where you can actually find a gap report that these are keywords that neither of you rank for. And so you can go through that list and start to look to see if you're inspired by ideas. And then you can build out a plan to use that information. The other one, you know, and it kind of amazes me how many I think it's a time issue. You know, you get to the point where you just don't have enough time to do all the neat things you could be doing. But another no cost thing to do is to take a look at how people are searching on your site. Now, most platforms have that tool built in. If they don't, you can set up Google Analytics to track your on-site searches and take a look at that. What are they looking for on your site that you don't carry or you run out of too fast? Are you using a back in stock notification for the customers who do run into supply issues so that you can let them know when you come back? That's a little trick that doesn't necessarily cost you any money, but can help you grow your business incrementally. The
other thing
anybody
I would jump
else?
in. Yeah, I would jump in. I think the most important thing when we're going through moments of change, and this was true like in spring of 2020, the companies we worked with who did the most of this were most successful. And the thing is to talk to your customers, to actually send out surveys, have one-on-one conversations, interview them, because I think the best thing we can do, in addition to watching all this data that we have, is to humanize it as well. So by talking to your customers and, I asked the question, what are your customers concerned about? And we didn't get a lot of answers, which makes me think this could be a really helpful exercise for a lot of people on this call, is call them up, ask them, what are the 3 things you're confident about right now? What are 3 things you're worried about right now? How is our product helping you right now? How are we not helping you? You can explore a bunch of different open-ended questions just to get them talking. And you'll start to see, are there things that are a little different than before? Oh, I saw some hands pop up. I'm excited. All right. Laura, do you want to
I'm trying to figure out
some folks if you can see it?
Jujubee. Let's give you a shot.
So to that point, AJ, I have been trying to reach out to brands and retailers, but they're, and this is both like in store, trying to walk into stores at the domain, trying to reach out to them via email. It is hard. It is hard to get a response or anyone who would respond to you. And even for, let's say wanting to do a launch event, trying to get a space at, one of these retail locations, it is hard. I just wonder, does anyone have any experience with, trying to get a space to promote their products in Austin? How have you gone about doing that? If you've been able to successfully reach out to, brands and retailers, how were you able to do that?
I think I can address the first part, but I'd love to hear from other folks around the space question. So from a reaching people perspective, a lot of times we have to be careful about the context in which we're reaching out. So if they're working right now and you're walking into the store, it might just not be a time when they're able to really consider that, something like that. And on the flip side, if it's something they do after hours or in the morning, if you can kind of catch them at a time where it can fit in as an additional thing, it depends on who your target audience is. For some people, it's like, call me at lunchtime. But I think the most important thing is to keep in mind what they get out of the conversation. So from an e-commerce D2C type scenario, people will often put compensation in place. I like to, the heuristic used to be $1 per minute that you would give them, where it'd be, I'll give you a $25 Amazon gift card for 25 minutes of your time type thing. When you're talking B2B, some of the value is less one-to-one with dollars, but you can think about ways that like where they will benefit from the conversation. Will they get early access to the product? Would they be part of the first year, no payment needed? Maybe there's some other ways of thinking about how they can be valued, and you can show that value back to them for the time that you're giving right now.
Victor will be at you next, but I just wanted to add one more thing. For B2B, obviously your situations dip, and the larger the merchant, the harder it is going to be to reach the key contacts. You might try trade shows. And if it's something new, a booth is a very expensive thing, but it may be helpful. If it isn't, I find just walking around and networking and talking, I can meet a lot of faces. And again, if you aim your welcome towards their pain points, then their ears will perk up.
Yeah, and I just dropped this in chat to follow up on that, because there are some ways you can actually recruit for your target audience. Respondent.io is probably a better of these two, because they'll let you see their LinkedIn profile, so you can like validate what their role is, what company they work with. You do have to compensate them for their time, and you pay for respondent, so it's a higher fidelity thing than walking in and talking to someone. But it's a good way. It's lower cost than going through like a full-blown recruiting agency to find exactly your target audience. You can get pretty specific with screener questions. So I would check that out if you're having trouble, scheduling time. It's got all that built in there.
Victor, you had some input here.
Yeah, so, God, we got a little, I'm gonna touch on AJ's real quick, I'm gonna go to Jay. So I think the main thing I would say is cost of goods, right? The cost of goods is gonna be it's not the priority thing as far as to get the business going. Because if they could get that down, oh my gosh, it goes a long way. You know what I mean? Especially like when it comes to e-commerce, because let's say they're not doing any B2B, they're doing like direct to consumer. You want to hold as much value to your product or whatever you have going on your e-commerce website. So I believe that is something extremely important. And going back to the environmental factor of it all depends on where they're getting the raw materials, the ship. Like there's so many different variables involved. It's so complex because it just depends on what their business model is and what they're actually doing.
Right.
So, oh yeah, and for you, like you mentioned, it was you wanted to do like a B2B.
Yes, but not meaning to cut you off here, but I had a question about when you said price of goods. Do you mean the price of goods, the cost of goods to the brand and the retailer itself, or do you mean the ultimate retail price to the consumer?
No, I'm thinking more behind that. I'm talking about like the raw materials. Let's say they have a product, right, that requires raw materials.
Okay.
Correct. And then after that, you could adjust with what you mentioned earlier. Then you could adjust your wholesale from what you got, and then go forward with that. But you mentioned that you wanted to do you wanted to like launch in different types of stores. Are you just trying to what is it exactly, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, so basically I am hoping to get stores to participate and say, okay, we're going to offer, maybe say a 10% discount to anyone, who is coming into our stores, trying on stuff, reviewing these items, these try-ons, using Body Doubler. And if you like your try-ons, then, and you decide to make a purchase today, you get like, a special deal, right? So that's the sort of partnership that I'm trying to form with brands.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that it's like a win-win-win solution where, we get traction on our site. They get, customers trying on stuff, engaging with the brand, purchasing their items, gain more brand awareness. And also for the customers, they get to use our app for free, right? They get to sign up to a cool new app that will help their shopping needs in the long run. And then they also get a good deal for shopping in the store that day. So that's what I'm proposing. I've been throwing that out there. Of course, it's only been like 2 days since I've reached out to, event venues like the Domain, not hearing anything from them. 2 smaller boutiques that I found through Peerspace. So for some reason, like they're apparel boutique owners, but they have decided to rent out their boutique space for anyone who wants to run events. So I thought, hey, maybe I can partner up with them, reach out to them. Okay, it's only been 2 days. I haven't heard back from them yet. It might take them a little longer to get around to me. But I'm just so anxious to get this off the ground, right? So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would recommend too, right? So if you're trying to get in contact with somebody of importance, what you're trying to do, go through the sales channel first. Because what ends up happening is that the sales channel, in order to give a green light to a call that he has to do, he's gonna have to push it up to his higher boss, right? So if you're able to get in touch with the sales, on their website or wherever they're operating out of, and then after that you could go from there, and I guarantee you'll get a far better answer.
Okay.
That's if you're trying to do that in stores.
Yeah, and anyone else in the room who has any experience with with this, I would deeply appreciate any sort of advice you can give, feedback, anything.
So do we have any more questions, or I'm going to start throwing some out here? How many of you have really gone to great lengths to personalize your email marketing, building out segments and doing different campaigns so you're getting the right message in front of the right person? That's great, Victor. How did you do that? And how's it working for you? Because you're doing B2B too, which is very different.
Oh, I'm doing practically everything. I do subscription models too. So like people who are doing Kickstarter campaigns and stuff like that. So what ends up happening, they do a Kickstarter campaign and they have all these fulfillment orders getting ready to be put out. They end up reaching out to a 3PL to handle it for them, so, but they have such a large amount of sales, and so they get a little overwhelmed and they reach out to, it could be Writer or any other different types of 3PL, however. But for emails, I would say it's back to what AJ was saying, is providing that value, right? I don't come off as salesy. I come off as more as partnering with them, because at the end of the day, that's really what it is, right? Like, you're on a constant communication basis with your partners, with whatever product they got pushing out, right? They're always going to be calling like, oh, how's business? How's this? How's it going? How's fulfillment? How's staff? You know? So it's more of like adding value to it, right? Providing the right value, ask what they're looking for. There's pretty much everything that AJ covered earlier, you know, like, what are they not happy with? What are they looking to do better? You know, things of that, you know, like just providing as much value as you possibly can, for sure. Because when you go off, like, if you send an email, right? Sometimes I did it through sites, and I bounced around emails because I was trying to reach like a CEO of the company. This was way before when I started. And I would go through the website, I'd email somebody, I'd be like, oh, God, it came off cold, never got a response. But once you target a certain channel, like whether it be sales or the wholesale, because there's different type of emails. Everyone has a category in part of the business, right? Like, there's someone who runs the wholesale emails, the sales emails. And if you target that right email, either the sales or the wholesale, they'll draw you to who you need to get to by providing the value. Because if they see that there's value in what you're providing, they're gonna be like, oh, wow, cool. And I end up getting a response saying, oh, awesome, I'm gonna send it up to, you know, the CEO or whoever. And then we end up getting a communication going. So it's all about the value, for sure.
Lori, how do you think about it? Like, what would you, when do you start segmenting? How many emails do you need to have?
Oh, goodness. You know, with automated flows, we try to start them right away. You know, like I'm working on a project right now with an older customer, and they sell gourmet olive oils, and they sell gourmet balsamic vinegars and a few other things that complement that mix. And we just redid their recipe site. And, you know, one of the things that I can do is say, okay, they just bought a serrano pepper flavored oil. The next question for that shopper is likely going to be, what else can I use it on other than this one recipe that called for it? So that one of the ways I can help grow the business and personalize the email, and then have, once I've set it up, the computer does it, is to come in with the next email and say, we want you to really enjoy your new oil. Check out all these recipes we have. And then I can go back a week later and say, if you want to make some amazing salad dressings with your oil, here are some vinegars we usually pair up with that. And then next time, you know, try this on your chicken. And so we can set up a 3 or 4 email, and I like to spread them out, you know, when it's that kind of a topic, to just kind of, but I mean, the recipes, how do you use it? Get it to them immediately, because then they'll run out, and it's a replenishable. So then it, you know, and I'm still going to have to test for timing, but, you know, we're going to send out a replenishment email in there too at some point, you know, that says, are you running out? You know, and maybe it'll even be written with a little humor and saying, if not, try these recipes. So, you know, you can have a lot of fun, and we're doing things like that. I got one store that's got about 45 different automations at this point, and it's not that big a store. But what we're finding is that his audience is self-segmented, and into those buying regular size linens, and those buying linens for specialty size king beds. And so the messaging really needs to be very different. And yet we want more than one purchase off of these high dollar oversized. So you just kind of do that kind of stuff, because if you want people to open your email, as Victor alluded to as well, they have to see a value in doing so. And so that's what we do. And then the campaigns can be segmented and introduced into other products and sales and things like that.
Yeah, I think building on that, I think if you don't have this in place yet, it's one of like the low hanging, easier things to do is for upping your conversion rate are if somebody's exited cart, like those abandoned cart emails. Lori, I'd be curious if you've played around with some messaging there, if you've seen anything that works based on your segment, or have any examples there? Because what we see on the CRO side is just that it's really important that if somebody gets distracted, like we can have empathy for the fact that they got distracted and make it easy for them to come back, but also you're wading through all the other noise that they have in SMS or email. So Lori, do you have any tips for people on that?
We've found, at least for the first couple in the chain, and that just being very simple and not trying to distract by selling other products is a big deal. And one of the things one of my people did, and I thought it was kind of until I saw the numbers on it, is it said, the first one says about your order. So it raises curiosity, and they're like going, what order? I didn't place an order. Well, we're going to help you with that. So that one works. You can always sell with coupons, but I don't like to give away money. I mean, if you need the discount to get the sale, great. If you would have got the sale anyway, then you just gave away money. And if you're going to give away money, I'll be happy to give you my address. But most merchants, want to give away what they need to and not more than that. So, and there are a lot of things you can experiment with, like upsell apps and things, and it's ideal that you have enough traffic to test it, because a change can make a big improvement or it could hurt you, which is really kind of a big deal. I guess about 3 months ago, tried to find out from store owners whether the buy now, pay later options actually added to either their average order size or their conversion rate, which is exactly how they're sold. And nobody, not a single store owner could really tell me if it had made a difference one way or the other, which tells me if it made a difference, it wasn't huge, or something else was, that would be the likely scenario, that they just paid this way instead of another way, in which case it didn't. It's a little more expensive than just taking a credit card. So once again, you want to really know if it's making money for you, or you can cut it.
Or even worse, it might be losing money for you. So what we've seen tests happen is, if you have like 2 different CTAs on a product page, sometimes for some audiences, it gets more confusing than less. And so they end up purchasing less, even though you have one path that's really easy and one that's more standard. So yeah, I mean, maybe the takeaway for me in difficult times is like, make big changes, but definitely make sure to measure it. I was just thinking about a client we've been working with this spring, and they wanted to make a really big new homepage. And we said, let's just double check that it looks better, it seems better, but let's just double check that it actually performs better. And it performed about 30% worse than the old site. So it was a better design. It seemed like better copy, but just the placement and the flow was so much worse that it gave us kind of pause and helped us reevaluate what we could do in that new design. Lori, I'm just looking at time. We've got about 5 minutes left. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop it into the chat. But I wanted to just give a quick preview for our next meetup, which is going to be on July 21st. We're going to do something that is very popular that we do a few times a year, which is your store ready to convert? And the idea is Lori and I, and we often bring in a guest or two, we'll do a tear down of 2 to 3 brands' websites. So if you have one, or you have someone who needs one, you can submit it as a request within the meetup. And what we'll do is we will give you free advice on ways to make your website ready for holiday, or for high season, or just ready for tomorrow. We've done them in the past. We've covered a wide variety of topics, and they're great not only to learn about your own store, but to get inspiration from other people's stores as well.
And in some cases, we've gone back in and bought from them too.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone gets a chance to see your products and learn how great they are.
Did you buy from the pickleball site?
I have so much pickleball. It's like nonstop. My front door is just full of packages of pickleball almost every day. Well, thanks everyone for being on today. And we hope to see many of you in the July meetup. And then for those of you in Austin, we're planning to do an in-person meetup probably in August or September, just something casual over drinks. But we'll keep our monthly programming on the Zoom otherwise. Thanks for being on today, everybody.
Take care, stay well, and be profitable. Go forth and prosper, as Spock said. Right? Okay,
Hi, everybody.
Bye.